Welcome everyone to the April 19th, 2022 Networking for Introverts call. We have a few new faces today, so I want to go around the room and do a quick little introduction. So most of you, actually everybody knows me here. I'm Sabrina Schottenhamel, speaker, licensed massage therapist, fellow introvert. Let's see, the question for introductions, how do you know me? And then maybe what's your superpower? I think I was thinking about that earlier. Like, what's your superpower or your God-given gift that really stands out to you or to other people? All right, so if Denzel, if you're able to unmute, we'll go with you first. If not, we'll go to Wendy.
Can I skip? I'm about to get on the train.
Oh, okay. So we'll come back to you. All right, Wendy, go ahead and start.
How do I know you? Okay. I forgot the questions already. I'm working on my superpower. So I met you through a coaching group. And my superpower is encouragement. I am pretty good at lifting people up who are not up and need to be, which is everybody.
Yeah. Yes, that is a superpower. I love it. Thank you. And where are you coming from? Maybe that would be a good question to answer too.
Yeah, I'm in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Where it is snowing.
Oh, we had snow here yesterday in Chicago.
Yeah, it was 60 yesterday.
Oh, yeah. We haven't quite made it up to 60. We're supposed to get into the 70s and 80s over the weekend though.
Ooh,
so that's pretty good. Maybe I'll get to ride my new bike finally. All right, Angela.
Awesome. Well, I know you from about a year ago. I co-lead a nonprofit called Baton Pass, and we were lucky enough to snag Sabrina. She was on a virtual event because I live in Arizona and Sabrina lives in Chicagoland. And then from that, she actually took a course that I was leading, and then I got more blessed out of it than anyone because I got my sweet new friend. So, and she has been just an awesome pillar, an amazing woman in my life since then. So that's how I know Sabrina. But I say, man, I was thinking you were gonna say, like, if we could have a superpower, what would we want? And I was so stoked. I was like, I got so many.
But you can tell us what superpower you want too. Sure.
We can. I think the superpower that I don't know, probably how God has kind of carved my heart is very much like a compassionate person. Like I feel deeply for people who are going through it, and I think compassion leads you to do something about it, want to do something about it. So if I had any superpower though, I would want to like be able to read people's thoughts. I know that sounds ridiculous. Then you can connect with them in like a different way. Anyway, so that's
yeah.
me.
Well,
and I'm from I'm from Chicagoland, but here in Phoenix, Arizona at this point. So
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Jim, introduce yourself, please.
Hello, Jim Itzstein. I'm coming from beautiful downtown Elk Grove, Illinois. Superpower, I would say I'm a jack of all trades, a master of none, so I'm good at most things. So maybe versatility is my superpower. I can do most things pretty good, but I'm not an expert at everything, but I'm good at most things.
All right, awesome. And we met through?
Oh, we met through Engaging Speakers. You were an excellent speaker last month. I met you the previous month too, but you gave an amazing presentation last month.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Awesome. Well, let's jump right into our topic for today, which is actually going to be part one And then in May, we'll go over part 2. So the part 1 is knowing yourself as an introverted leader. We're going to go for 5 habits for strong introverts. And like I said, it's part 1. Next month, we will cover the next 5 to make it part 2. All righty. So like we usually do, I will go over some of the different points that I'm going to go over, give you the topic, give you some supporting information to go along with each. And if I feel like I need to stop and have you share, or if you need to stop and speak up and share, you can either raise your hand, you can cut me off and unmute yourself, or you can use the chat to chime in at any time. This is for networking and speaking up and becoming an introverted leader. So if you want to speak up at any time, please feel free. I will not be offended if you cut me off. All right, so let's see. Number 1 is knowing and loving your time alone. Because as introverts, we definitely know that we need time alone. I remember having this conversation with Jim at Engaging Speakers. I don't know if it was earlier this month or if it was in March, but he's an introvert, but he comes off as an extrovert. And most of us in our businesses or in our roles that we play day to day, I was just messaging someone because he saw my post from earlier about it being an introvert. And he's like, I don't see you as an introvert. I'm like, we're extroverts in disguise. And that's really what we are, is we like to be around people. We like to promote ourselves and lead our teams or whatever it might be. But we also know that we need our time alone to recharge. So being a really good and strong introverted leader, we know and we love this time alone. So we prioritize it, we schedule it, and we cherish it. And then we also make sure that we use decompression. Decompression is definitely our best friend. And whatever way that might be for you, decompression. So it could just be taking a nap or sitting quietly with maybe your headphones on or watching some Netflix and chilling out with some hot tea or, just a nice book. Or if you want, you can go outside and exercise, whatever it might be. Because you're a strong introverted leader and you know yourself really well, you love this time and you know what activities best support your decompression and recharging your body. The next one is basically do number 1 without guilt. So scheduling time for yourself, but not having the guilt or having anyone guilt you into giving up that time. So embracing our quality time to be alone, to recharge, basically what I said in number 1. And then of course, again, just reiterating what I said in number 1 is knowing the best ways for you to recharge, whether it's being in nature, doing meditation, exercise, sleep, reading a book, watching TV. You know yourself and you know the best way that you can recharge, and that you do without guilt. So that basically 1 and 2 kind of go together for sure. And then we'll jump down to number 3. And knowing yourself as a strong introverted leader is strong in the growth mindset. And I will probably pause right here and open it up for some feedback and some comments because I know all of you and you are leaders, business owners, whatever, speakers. We need to know, or we know that we are in the leadership, the growth mindset. So we focus on learning versus the result. And then I kind of made a note that said, we're enjoying the journey along the way instead of just the destination. More focusing on our body, mind, and spirit instead of the end goal, which could be money or whatever. I just put money down because it's a monetary value that most people are going for. And yes, we need money to live and survive. But if we can nourish our body, mind, and spirit, then and really use our gifts and talents as introverted leaders, then the money and the end result will come. So I will go around the room. Welcome, Archimedes. I will go around and ask you you can either give me some feedback on 1, 2, or 3, or, just anything that pops up into your mind at this time. So I will start with Wendy. If there's anything that came to mind that you'd love to share, go ahead and unmute.
Well, yeah, I think focusing on the journey is always a good thing. I mean, I'm always looking to grow spiritually, emotionally, all of those things. So it's almost like any book I read too. If it's just learning. Very
Yeah.
rarely am I reading something that's not just for, I don't want to say for fun, because I like reading about self-growth, and that's not to say it's outside the work of the Lord. You know what I mean? Not about rah rah sis pumbaa, that kind of getting myself popped up kind of thing. But yeah, just growing in the Lord and growing in skills, habits, that kind of thing.
I like that. Yeah, and that's kind of like when I was planning for this, 5 habits. It's just habits that we do as introverts that maybe extroverts they don't realize that we have to work on. And as extroverts, maybe they need to work on a little more introspection instead of always going. But I don't know. I'm not a complete extrovert, so I'm not sure if they need to recharge in any way. I know that being around people helps them to recharge. And, when they walk into a room, they're an extrovert because they are a strong presence. So yeah, it's definitely knowing the habits and working on the habits. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Anything else?
It made me think of something though. When I walk into a room that's full of people, there's an entirely different vibe than when I walk into a room full of Zoom people.
Okay.
Right? Even though there's
Yeah.
a lot of people, it's just, they're not in your face. They're not, you know what I mean? It's easier to do it this way than it is face to face.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know with the shutdown, and I mean, I love being out with people, especially with my business. I'm traveling to people's homes and giving them a massage or going to speaking engagements. So I do like to be with people. And when everything was shut down, I just got comfortable with not getting fully dressed, just getting dressed on top and wearing pajama pants. And and then I had to go back out into the world every single day. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I like this anymore. So I completely understand where you're coming from, Wendy. It's fun to get together in person, but it's also fun to get together on Zoom, as long as we're not doing it too much, right? Because then we get way too comfortable. So we need to get outside that comfort zone sometimes too. Thank you. Angela, would you like to share next?
Sure. I mean, I always love when the first thing is knowing and loving your alone time, because that is like my favorite time. Like, I love all my people, but I literally just had brunch with a friend and needed to clear my head and really like ponder something I was stuck on. And so I went on a hike, like a pretty intense hike. And I went by myself, like I didn't want anybody else. And it took like half a day. And she was like, why would you torture yourself and doing that by yourself? Like you didn't. And I'm like, this is exactly what filled me back up.
Yeah.
And I recognize that not everyone is going to understand that, but that taking the opportunity to prioritize doing something outside of the ordinary, that it unlocked the block that I was dealing with. So good. And also one of the things with the focus on learning instead of the result, I don't know if it's just me, and this is just me as an introvert, or if it's maybe particular to introverts, that anytime I'm leading something, like I don't want to be the creator of it. And I also want there to be patterns. I want to, like, you tell me, and then I will implement it like to perfection as best I can. So the focusing on learning gives me like the courage to lead well, to kind of stop myself from feeling embarrassed. It's like bringing all of that stuff into me so that I can pour out well, and that kind of builds my confidence. So I think that's kind of an offshoot in that number 3, but it sparked my, what is that for me personally?
Yeah. I love that when you said you had something on your mind and you were talking with a friend and then you went on a hike all alone, it brought up, I don't remember what month it was, but we did speak on different transitions between meetings or going out with a friend or whatever it might be. In between each activity in your day, taking 1 to 2 minutes to have a transition period to decompress from the first meeting or call or whatever it might be, appointment, whether it's, me as a massage therapist and something kind of frustrated me, or I left there feeling a little icky. I get in my car and I take a moment to breathe and to refresh my mind before I go into the next activity. So you reminded me of that for, just figuring out something, a transition for yourself, whether it's like a, half day hike or 2 to 5 minutes where you're just closing your eyes and just being like, okay, what's going on? Or even just pulling out a notepad and just writing down some words in order to get them out and then move on to your next activity. Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Yeah, thanks, Angela. Jim.
Yes, like we discussed at this month or last month meeting, or whatever it was, when I get home, I have to recharge my batteries. They are completely drained because I'm people don't believe me when I tell them I'm an introvert, because I'm so extrovert at many times at events. And so I need my me time to recharge my batteries and everything like that. And an extrovert will go home. They can't wait to tell everybody about their day, get on social media, go out on the phone. When I get home, I just have to, I don't want to talk about business. I don't want to go over what I did during the day. I don't like to look at my texts. I don't like to look at my text messages, my emails for a few hours. I want to get away from it. Why an extrovert, they can't wait to tell somebody or talk to the next person. My growth mind is, again, I'll be hypocritical, is once I become friends with somebody, once I get to know, like, and trust somebody, I become an extrovert around them. But until I get that trust factor and get to know them, I just don't, I stay more reserved and everything like that. But once you become my friend, you are my friend, and I become a completely different person. And that's the reason why the last couple of years, I have not liked Zoom too much, because you just can't make that personal connection. Mm-hmm. It may take me 3 or 4 or 5 attempts at meetings to get to know somebody. And it's my problem, because being an introvert, but once I get to know them, I'm there for them. So I'm sort of glad we're getting out of the Zoom, because it's beginning to force me to get back out there and get to know people.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And I love how everybody was like nodding and agreeing with you, because they could definitely relate to the in-person, the recharging, the Zooms, the going or being an extrovert, and I mean an introvert, but in an extrovert world, basically. So yeah, that was
one of the
really
problems.
good.
the cell phone, you can never escape because the cell phone's always with you with text messages and emails. And, it's harder to hide as an introvert with that cell phone.
Yeah, it's so true. We went on a trip 2 weekends ago down to the North Mountains in Georgia to unplug. So I didn't bring my laptop. We brought our phones because obviously you can't leave home without it. But we had to drive there, so we needed our GPS. And in case of an emergency, we needed our phones. But I turned it on, do not disturb, pretty much the whole time. And I told myself, no social media. I checked my email once the whole weekend. We were gone Friday to Tuesday. I checked my email once, and I responded to a few text messages because my associates were working for me while I was gone. But yeah, it was a struggle to escape from the phone because I have my own business. So it's really interesting when I'm talking to one of my clients he's been retired for a long time. He's in his early 70s, and he and his wife share a cell phone. He doesn't have a smartphone. They only have one flip phone. It's off most of the time. They have a landline. And when he goes out shopping, he brings it with. And if he needs to call his wife, he turns it on, he makes the call, and he turns it off. And I'm like, gosh, you live such a simple life. Wouldn't that be so nice? Maybe once or twice a week to just not rely on your phone for the internet and just think for yourself. I know I'm kind of getting on a tangent, but you brought it up, Jim, with our business and the cell phone. We can't get away from it. So I just thought that was interesting with my client who is living the simple life and as happy as could be. Thank you, Jim. Archimedes, would you like to first introduce yourself, because we have a few new people here. So the question was, what is your superpower? Where are you coming from? And how do you know me?
Okay, so what is my superpower? How do I know you? And where am I coming from?
Yeah, where do you reside?
Okay, so Chicago. I'm in the Northwest side, so specifically in Humboldt Park. Where do I know you from? From Jennifer. We've been in the same coaching program, and that's how I know Sabrina. And then my superpower. An interesting one. I think just with life adversities, I think one of the things that I've learned about myself is, and I don't know if that will be considered a superpower, but resilience in the midst of chaos. There's just been this way that I would say God has just really shown me to just show up, even when you want to just hide and crawl and stay in your room and not come outside. And so I think that's just a different way that I've learned to live. And I would say that's my superpower. I think there's so much greatness in those dark places that we really, I would say definitely gifts that we get to witness and embrace and uncover when we're in those places. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, thanks. And then if you wanted to add to, that's why I put the 1, 2, and 3, that's how far we've gotten so far. So, just the topic for today is 5 habits to being a strong introvert, knowing yourself as an introverted leader. So if there's anything you want to share about that, you can feel free to do that.
So just go by, 1, which is time alone.
Yeah.
So one thing that I could definitely say about number 1, and I think I could kind of refer back to Jim. I think I'm almost like a chameleon. I could be that introvert, but I could also be that extrovert. But that time alone, I respect it. I honor it because that's where I get to recharge. And so, yes, I could speak in front of people and bring all this crazy energy, but believe me, right after that event, you won't find me. I do honor my time alone. And I say it's not just me by myself, but it's definitely me and God. It's definitely an opportunity for not to kind of critique myself and say, oh, what did you not do right? Or it's just to just be at peace, right? And then we go into like, what did you do well? What can you do better? I would definitely say that will be my number one. And then can you kind of tell me a little bit number two, do number one without guilt? What do you
Well,
mean by that?
basically, so number one is loving your time alone, prioritizing that time, putting it in your schedule, cherishing that time, and really decompression is your friend. So basically what I was saying is do number one without guilt. So embracing that quality time to recharge and knowing the best way that you recharge yourself. Like what activity really recharges you.
Yeah.
So you basically answered it, being alone with God and being at peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then number three, which is strong in the growth and in the growth mindset. Just what techniques I use, or
Yeah.
I will then go back to what Wendy was mentioning. Again, life just teaches you, especially when you've gone through stuff, that it has not been easy. There is so much, I would say, freedom when you do invest in yourself. I believe that we're set free when we're growing, from mental bondages, from physical bondages, whatever it may be. And so I would say that will be where my growth mindset is. I do take time to grow just in every way, shape there is, whether it's, spiritual, in my profession. I always say, and it might be a little old and cliche, but staying in the forefronts, right? Being the best that you can in whatever gift you have in your hand. And so, yeah, always growing.
Thank you. All right. We'll close, or we'll round up with number 4 and number 5. So basically we kind of talked about this already, but knowing your boundaries. I forget where I heard this, but no is a full sentence. And I'm sure you've all heard it at some point, that when someone asks you to do something and you already have a prior commitment or you have time scheduled for yourself, you don't want to break that time with yourself, because that is disrespecting yourself. And you can say no, and that's it. You don't have to give an excuse, which I've learned over the last few years, to just say, no, I can't. And if they ask why, it's just like, well, I have priorities. We all have our own lives to live, and I can't always change them for you. And I'm always thinking about, like family, when it's like, hey, can you drop everything and just help me? Yeah, I would love to. Thank you, Angela. I would love to, but I have my own life. So I say no. And then your space and time is important for what did I write? Your space and time is important. Very few exceptions. I don't know what that means. I don't know why. I guess your space, like having your alone time. I think that's what I mean. So having your own alone space and time, and not making exceptions for your own. I think that's what I meant to say, is not having the exceptions and giving into to the boundaries that you've set for yourself, to give yourself that time. And then happiness is our ultimate goal, because if we are not happy, we are not able to lead from the best place. Yay, Denzel is joining us. So then we'll wrap up with number 5 is focus on your strengths, which I think we've already been basically touching on all these in all the 1 through 5, but focusing on your strengths. Don't give time to our weaknesses. We only want to focus on things that we know we're really good at and that lifts up our energy. We don't want to be drained of our energy. We don't want to be surrounding ourselves with people that will bring us down. We want to be around people just like you. And that's why I created this group, so I could be around people that are introverted leaders, that are lifting themselves up and wanting to learn and grow. Because we don't have time to be drained. We don't have time to be dragged down. We have these gifts and talents that God gave us, and we need to get them out there. So we want to grow each day. And just like I said, lead with our gifts and talents, because this keeps us moving forward each and every day. So is there anything that's not all the number 5, or that's the 5 part 1. And I think just to wrap it up, I will say, like I kind of was saying already, it allows us to shine our light, be a leader, and grow humbly, because we know as introverts that we want to be really confident, we want to put ourselves out there, but we also have to remember, even if a lot of things go our way, we have to remember where we came from. We have to be humble at all times. So I think that wraps up what I have to say. Is there anything else that you guys want to add, especially Denzel, since you're able to unmute and share with us? I know you got kicked off a few times, but is there anything you'd love to share with us?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, I'm Denzel. I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I know Sabrina through Jennifer, our business coach. We've met through a number of times on Zoom calls and stuff and connected. One of the questions you said, superpower, right? What is our superpower?
Uh-huh.
I would say immediately what comes to mind for me is mercy. So even before I knew who God was and before I came into my life to Jesus Christ, I always had this ability to forgive people like quickly. I didn't like holding on to unforgiveness for long periods of time. Now, that doesn't say I haven't done it before, but I'm more lenient to show mercy and kindness to people than others. And that could be a good and a bad thing. So I had to learn to grow and mature in this gift and knowing how to, properly steward, because people could take advantage of you when you show that you have this level of kindness. Anyway, what I would like to share is I was able to listen to you guys' feedback, and I definitely touched and agree with what you were saying, what everyone was saying about knowing yourself and being able to take time for yourself to recharge and reboot. And also something that I found was interesting in my own personal experience is that when you have so Holy Spirit taught me that it's okay to have degrees of relationships. So like you can have your inner circle, and then you can have like people just right outside the inner circle, and then you got people that you're still supposed to love, but you want to love at a distance. So, and I guess it ties into what everyone was saying, talking about boundaries. And I learned that, it's okay that you don't have family members in your inner circle. It's just that that's be the case sometimes, because sometimes you have to allow people to earn the trust, the inner circle's trust, so to speak. And, in the beginning, I used to I like to use it as a credit score type scenarios. Like you don't want to give everybody an 800 credit score. Like start them off with the initial trust, like maybe like 300 or 400. Like, hey, I trust you enough that you're a human being and you want to respect me and I respect you. But allow them to earn or deplete or misuse your trust over time. You don't want to. You want to be smart and wise, and use your boundaries appropriately. So that was something else. And then also, I found that there are certain people that you connect with deeply than others, and like I found myself extending more time or more of myself to them when I normally wouldn't do it on a regular basis. So like those who are, in my inner circle or who I appreciate as a friend, you know, I wouldn't mind staying up that extra hour or being on that phone call even longer just to have a conversation, you know. So, and a lot of times that could tap into other um, time periods I would have for myself. But, you know, I learned that it was okay because, you know, that's just, you know, showing my willingness to be vulnerable and to be open for that relationship to grow. But, you know, also at the same time, knowing when and where to do that. That's all I got to say.
I love that. Yeah, and it relates back to what Jim was saying about when he gets to know someone, eventually he will give them the trust and he becomes an extrovert in their situation, you know, but he doesn't, you know, it's obviously harder to do when you're through Zoom because you don't have that person-to-person connection. So yeah, it definitely all relates. And then yes, of course, the boundaries are huge. And I love the way you give them a credit score. Like, oh, we just met, so you're about a 200 or 300, and you know, the more you give, the more I, you know, trust you. And it's not always them giving, right? It's, you know, a little bit of give and take that they go up and down in the levels. But that I like that. I like that analogy. That's a good one. Would anyone else like to share a little bit more? Anything that stood out for the call today? Maybe your main takeaway that you're going to, that maybe you learned today or you're going to implement. I'll just go around, and if you want to take 30 seconds. Wendy, I'll start with you.
Let's see. Yeah, I like what you said about focusing on our strengths and growing in them. I think it goes back to that growth mindset, is just be the best you can be.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, and there was something that I was going to add to, oh, shoot, it just went away again. I think it might come back. I'm not sure. Angela, what would you like to share?
Sure. Yeah, a lot of this is so good. I think particularly one for me, I know I can grow in this substantially, is knowing my own boundaries and not giving excuse. I think even when we feel like we have to cater to someone else, even if we try to be like, well, I kind of got this other thing or something going on, and even those like little white lies or something like destroy your own self-image. And so I think just having the posture that you that those boundaries are actually helping, you know, you as a person be more effective in every relationship you have and give the best of yourself to all of those things. So I think it just reaffirmed. It's very interesting. Like, right as you were saying that, I literally got a text message from someone that's like, you can help with this, right? And I'm like, no, I can't. Like I had already told her, like, I don't think I'm going to be able to, but it literally gave me the courage, like, to be like, no, I'm sorry, I'm busy.
Yeah.
So
oh, that's so
in
good.
practice already.
Good. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Jim.
Well, as we went around the room, it sounds like everybody has similar, everybody's similar, being an introvert, where we have the similar problems, everything. And the key is to get to know yourself and know what you are and accept yourself, you know, accepting and loving yourself and be able to work as an introvert and work it to your advantage. You don't have to be like an extrovert. You can be yourself. I think that's the key.
Yes, embrace our strengths. Thank you, Jim. Archimedes?
I know I came in late, but from what I've kind of gathered is just the value of growth and being loyal to yourself in that midst of that growth. Because I don't see it as something negative. I know some people do. When you hear, oh, you're an extrovert or you're an introvert, like, you know, I try not to even put labels at times. But I would definitely say that embrace growth, honor it, and then be loyal to what you receive from that.
I love that. Loyal. That's a great word. You guys have had some amazing words today that I'm writing down, because when we were going over your superpowers today, we had compassionate, we had encouragement, versatility, resilience, mercy and forgiveness, and now loyal. Oh, I love all those words. Those are like, circle those words and post them everywhere. Denzel, would you like to close us out in some final words?
Sure. Yeah. One takeaway I'll definitely actively growing in is what you were saying about honoring and respecting your space and time. So like the time you set aside for yourself, when I think about that, is the time I set aside for when I want to spend time with God. I call it my quality time. You know,
Uh-oh, did you freeze, Denzel? You're just about to say something really good. You spend your quality time with God, and that's where you froze.
okay. I was saying just to maintain that and continue to honor that, and even while external circumstances are changing. So like I'm being more active and involved in different communities, primarily online communities, but to maintain that quality time and continue to honor that even with the changes, because I don't want, just because, you know, like when Joseph went from the prison into Pharaoh's household, you know, it was still important for him to maintain his relationship with God. So um, that's something that I want to always keep in mind. And then also just allowing God to continue to heal me in the process of learning to trust again, learning to trust others and in collaboration and work and stuff. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And just like Denzel said earlier with his, what do you call it, credit score, I like the way Archimedes said she can be a chameleon, kind of like Jim was saying, you know, whoever you're around, you kind of transform into that person. So I like the chameleon word too. And like I was saying when I was messaging someone earlier, how we're in disguise sometimes. You know, people are like, you're an introvert. Well, yeah, so most of the time we are. But I think the statistics are like 20% of speakers and leaders and influencers are also introverts. So it's just an interesting, I don't know, an interesting perspective of how we can come off as extrovert, but we need to go home and recharge in our own special way. Yeah, so this was amazing. Thank you all for your participation. And if you have other friends that are introverts, or maybe even we can invite a few extroverts to give a extrovert perspective on part 2 next month when we meet back here. So the date is the 3rd Tuesday of the month. It's the 3rd Tuesday of every month at 1 p.m. But that date is May 17th. And we're going to go over part 2 of 5 more habits for strong introverted leaders. And then, you know, obviously invite your friends if you want. There's a Facebook invitation page, or event page, I should say. And you can click that you're going, you could share, you could like, you can invite. And then if you're also loving these calls and you would like to give a testimony, you could either send it to me in text, you could do a voice recording and text it or email it to me, or send it to me in Messenger if you want. And then if you wanted to do a video, you could do that too, so I could see your happy smiling face as you speak and share. So that would be much appreciated. So I will, yeah, we did a really good job. We're just under an hour, so I will let you go on to the rest of your Tuesday. Thank you so much for all being here, and I love you all, and I'll see you next time, if not sooner.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Bye.
Sabrina.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
God bless y'all.
everyone.
Have a good week.
You too.